Hi, I'm Louise and this is Foxes and Fairy Tales. Welcome to the very first video for my brand new TBR game, TBR Tailspin. I am such a big fan of TBR game videos. That's one of the things that I kind of watch all month on YouTube, if I'm honest, because I follow so many people that have a TBR jar, chooses my TBR, blindly choosing my TBR books, or a specific kind of board game inspired TBR that honestly I put them on my watch list and I'm able to watch them the whole month through before I get onto the next batch. It is one of my favourite things to watch on YouTube, and I have always been kind of jealous of people who have put the thought in to creating their own. I'm a huge readathon person. I love readathons and I've always picked my TBR from a TBR. I'm not a mood reader. On months where there is no readathon running, I tend to flounder a bit. I definitely read a lot less, but I also spend a lot of time just kind of aimlessly staring at my shelves or scrolling my Kindle, trying something, putting it down, trying something new. I don't work well without a kind of focus. Now, 9 times out of 10, I don't stick to that TBR. I will make a TBR and I will read half the books on it, and the others will end up being forgotten or being switched or being added to. But the point is that having that TBR gives me that kind of path to follow, even if I then go off into the weeds myself. So I decided that I really wanted to make a TBR game of my own that I can play, especially in months where there's no big team-based point system, prompt-driven readathon happening either on Discord or YouTube or Blue Sky. Plus, I found this really cute board game when I was out charity shop shopping, and it was perfect for this because there were a couple of pieces missing and it wouldn't have worked being played as the game it was designed for. So with a bit of pain, I have managed something that is going to work for me. I've been inspired by lots of other YouTubers and their TBR videos, but at the base and the core of this, it is a game of snakes and ladders. There are 2 updrafts which function like ladders and they will help me skip further ahead in the board. And there are 2 dragons that I might collide with who will knock me back down. Then in the centre there is the tailspin, and that is exactly what it sounds like. It is a wheel that spins my little ball around, which can fire me off either up or down. So that adds an element of chaos right in the middle of the board. So this is TBR Tailspin, and it's pretty much a snakes and ladders style game, but with some little changes to help me pick my TBR choices. I am going to be rolling a 20-sided dice and working my way from the bottom, where I'm a little egg, up to the sky. Every time we hit one of these updrafts, that will help us because we will go in there and it'll help us get up the board. Every time we collide with a rival dragon, it will unfortunately be bad for us and it will bring us all the way back down. There is also an element of chance, as there is so often in life, and that is the tailspin. If we land on any one of these 6 coloured kind of long spots, then our little egg goes in there and is not so gently tossed around by the winds of chance. There are 6 of these kind of long finger points. There's 3 on here and 3 on the other side. And when the ball lands in one of those, I will have to add a book that corresponds to that colour on the cover. So for instance, at the moment, it would have to be a cover that is primarily red or has red be quite an important part of the cover. It doesn't need to be entirely red. It doesn't need to be 50%. It just has to, in my mind, feel like a red cover. So as we work our way around the board, there are 6 different coloured dots that we could land on. The blacks are rereads. The blues are mood reads. The reds are challenge books, so things, this could be the Buzzword-a-thon book of the month. It could potentially be a buddy read that I really need to get done, or it could be something from one of the year-long challenges like our fantasy bingo. The purple squares are arcs, either through NetGalley or physical arcs that I've been sent. The orangey yellow colour is to continue a series, and the greens are prompt cards. The prompt cards live over here, And these are more specific challenges, like that one to read a middle grade. I will probably add more prompt cards and take out old prompt cards every couple of months or every couple of times I play the game, just to add a bit more variety. I want to get in some that are really obscure and really kind of like specific, so that I really have to dig deep into my TBR to find things that fit. I probably will have to make kind of changes to the game as I go along. For one thing, I would really like to get those prompt cards maybe laminated, just because I feel they're going to take a bashing every time I shuffle them. But other than that, it might just be running the game a couple of times and seeing where the hiccups come in. If you've got any suggestions either for prompt card ideas or specifically for how the game itself could be improved, let me know, because the first couple of times are really going to be kind of trial and error. And with that said, I'm going to give the cards another shuffle, and then we're going to have our first kind of run through for this month's TBR. Okay, so we are back down at the bottom. There are kind of 2 spaces on the board so that you can play against someone. So that is a possibility in the future, making it a 2-player game. But for now, it's just little old me. The first roll is a 1. So we are starting really, really strong. And that is a yellow. So my very first roll gave me the prompt to continue a series. And this is one that I put on the board because I have a real problem with not continuing series. I will read the first one, put the second one on my Goodreads shelf, and then never get back to it. This especially is a problem if it's a recent release. But I have a problem on the other side of the scale too. Sometimes I will read the first dozen books in a series, but that last one book that will finish it for me, there's just some kind of mental block where I leave those untouched on my shelves for eternity. And I don't know if it's some kind of issue I have with leaving that world behind when I've enjoyed it, but I did be trying to wrap up. For this one specifically, I am going to pick up Memnoch the Devil by Anne Rice. This is the 5th book in Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles books, and since October last year, I have given myself the goal that I'm going to reread all of the Vampire Chronicles books. I read this series when I was a teenager and I loved the overblown gothy nature of it, and I really want to reread it now. This is book 5 of 15 though, so I definitely have a ways to go, and I really need to pick up the pace if I intend to finish it in the next decade. Our second roll is a 2. So we unfortunately avoid the updraft and hit a blue, which is a mood read, so that's something. And so this circle is a mood read. As I said, tend to need prompts or some kind of guidance to focus me when I'm picking what I want to read. I tend to flounder if I'm just left to my own devices, so I don't really mood read. On the other side of that though, I do really miss some of that spontaneity. It's why I think I've enjoyed some of those readathons, like the Amazing Readathon or Get a Clue, where the prompts are dropped so quickly and so randomly, because it feels almost like mood reading, even though you're actually following a much more specific TBR. But anyway, for the mood read prompt, I am going to do my best to go with the spirit of that, and I'm going to hold off, and when it's time to read my mood read, I will pick something off my shelf then and there without putting too much forethought into it. Our third roll is another 2, which takes us to purple, and that is an arc. So this circle is the arc circle, and I have a problem with unread arcs. I don't request a lot of physical ones anymore. I do sometimes get them unsolicited from the publishers, and those I really do feel a responsibility to get to, but I am really bad for going on kind of NetGalley sprees, requesting tons of books and then forgetting about them and getting really surprised a month later when the approval comes through because I've already added another 5 books to the TBR. One of my goals for 2025 was to massively cut down my NetGalley shelf. And so I'm hoping that landing on these squares is really going to motivate me to clear out some of those backlist ones, but that's not what I'm filling this square with. For this particular prompt, I am going to read Arcane Academy by Eliskova. This is an author I have been meaning to read it for ages and ages, and I've just never really got around to anything she's written. I am a little bit apprehensive about this one. I have learned, especially in the last kind of year to 6 months, that dark academia really just isn't for me. But there are other elements in this book that make it sound perfect. I love fake dating, and the magic system in this sounds really, really good. So I've got my fingers crossed that this is all just going to work out perfectly. Obviously, it doesn't clear that NetGalley backlist, but hopefully reading this one now will stop this one from becoming part of the problem. Roll number 4. Oh, finally, that is a 16. So we are going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And so that is a second continuous series. So continuous series came up again, and that's absolutely fine because, as I said, I have plenty of series I need to continue. I think though it's time to add an audiobook to this TBR, and so I will be reading the second book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I read the first book during Mystery and Mayhem, and I had an absolutely great time with it. So for this month, I am going to be adding Carl's Doomsday scenario to my TBR. And I'm really, really looking forward to this one. Then for our next roll, we have a 12. So the numbers are definitely picking up, which is good because I was starting to worry there. But we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And so that is a red, which means we are doing a challenge book. So these circles are the challenge circles, or I guess maybe we could call them obligation circles. They're things that I kind of already have in mind that I'm aiming towards. So it's going to fit things like read-alongs, it would fit things that have a group book, or buddy reads. It also fits things that already have prompts that I'm aiming to do by the end of the year. So things like every month I have 2 buzzwordathon prompts I'm trying to fill. I also have our fantasy prompts that I'm trying to get done by April, or 20 and 25 prompts that I'm aiming to do by the end of the year. What I don't want to happen is to get to November and have 16 books still on that 25 and 25. So this, when these come up, should just help me check in with my goals and see what I need to do to get myself back on track. For this particular pool, I am going to put on the Buzzwordathon Challenges cover prompt, and that is to read a book with technology on the cover. My choice for this one is another middle grade, and I know I said I didn't read a lot of middle grade, so I'm hoping that I will still be in the mood for this by the time I get to it. It is The Wild Robot by Peter Brown. I watched the adaptation of this in April, and I thought it was just the most beautiful children's film I had seen in years. I'm really not usually a fan of reading a book once I've already watched the adaptation, but in this case, I just thought the story was so heartfelt that I would love to get a little bit more insight into the characters' heads, which reading this would do. The next roll is going to be, I really don't want to land on a 3 through a 5 would all put me onto the tailspin. So we're hoping for something higher than a 1. Not higher, but at least it's not on the tailspin. So that takes us there. And that is a black, which is a reread. So I'm going to pick something I would like to reread. This is the reread circle, and there are the fewest of this circle on the board because I didn't want it to come up often. But sometimes I feel like with readathons and challenges and arcs and goals and series to finish and new releases to catch up on, I don't feel like I reread as much as I want to. There are books I absolutely adore, or books that I enjoyed and think when I get to the end of them, I think I would get so much more from this on rereading now that I know where we're going to end up. I'll really enjoy looking for the signs of that throughout the book. But then there are just so many books to keep up with, I never do go back and reread. So this is to give me the chance occasionally to do that. And for this month, I am going to be rereading Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher. Now, this is one I actually have reread a couple of times. I think I've read this book maybe 2 or 3 times. But this brand new edition is gorgeous. And I've always listened to the audiobook before. So I think this could make for such a really cozy reading weekend curled up on the sofa with this chunky boy. This is probably one of my top 3 books of all time. So I'm really excited to try reading it in a different format. And that is a 12. So I think we're safe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Just by the skin of my teeth is yet another continue a series. And we have another continue the series. So the board clearly knows me and knows where my problems lie. I'm going to be really brave here and possibly overly cocky, but I'm actually just going to put Dungeon Crawler Carl 3 into this spot. That is the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook. It's maybe a foolish mistake to put 2 books from the same series onto this TBR when I know that I tend not to jump directly from one book to the next. But I'm really excited to continue with this series, and I know there are, I think, about 8 books already out, so I kind of want to try and catch up a bit. And I think we're pretty safe. The only one we might not want to hit now is the dragon. This dragon up here could be a problem. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 is the number we do not want. Anything other than 9 is good. Ugh, are you kidding me? Okay, we're showing how the board works. It's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And that is a green. So that's a prompt card, which, at least there's that. So the prompt card is to read a book with a name in the title. So this is my first prompt card. The circles on the board itself are quite generic prompts, things like the reread, the continuous series. They're very loose and open to interpretation. The prompt card's goal is to make things a little bit more specific. They are things that are much more nichey and are going to really narrow down and kind of force me to pick up the books that fit them rather than finagling books I have seen most recently onto the TBR. So this particular prompt was to read a book with a name in the title. But for this month, I am picking Gregor the Overlander by Suzanne Collins. This is a middle grade, and I'm not usually a big fan of middle grade, but I read Sunrise on the Reaping when it first came out and was emotionally devastated. I have read the first Hunger Games book, but I've never really been particularly interested in reading the rest of the series. I think because I've seen the movies so many times, it almost just feels like I am done with that story, but I do want to read more Suzanne Collins. And so this book series is the solution to that. This is the first in, I think, 5, so it might end up on that continue the series prompt eventually, but for now, this is the one I'm going to add to July's TBR. Okay, so for this roll, we're back down. We could potentially hit another tailspin, or the first tailspin. So we're really hoping we don't kind of get that, low 5 to 10. Oh, it's a 20. Perfect. Well, I say perfect. Who knows where it's going to take us. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's great. We're past the kind of the problems on the tailspin. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So a 20 is a green, and that means we are doing another prompt card. So this one is, get the top one, read a book with a historical setting. I'm sure I can find something for that. So this is another prompt card, and this is just to read any book with a historical setting. That means it would be okay to read something like a historical fantasy, which I do kind of tend towards, but I do just so happen to have an actual straight up historical on my NetGalley shelf at the moment, so getting that in here would hit quite a lot of my kind of targets, and I feel it's in the best spirit of the prompt. This is The Bridestone by Sally Gardner, and it is set in 1776.
Now this could be where we go wrong. This is where we got to last time, but this could also be the last roll. So fingers crossed. And it is a 7. So we are going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so not the last roll, but no real problems. That is to pick a mood read. So anything I want.
So the last circle is another mood read, and again, I'm happy just to pick that when I get to it. I'm kind of assuming that it will be something on audio too. Probably isn't enough to keep me going for the whole month. So those mood reads probably will be things I end up kind of scrolling either through Libby or through Everand for, but I will pick them when I get to them. And the nice thing about that is I won't have to wait for delivery or go out to the shops, which fits mood reading even better because I can grab them right then and there.
And this is definitely our last roll unless it's a 1. So she says, fingers crossed. And it is an 18, which means we have finished the board.
This first run through didn't go quite as I expected. Obviously, with the 20-sided dice, there are low numbers there. There's always a chance that those are going to come up. But in my head, I had just expected that we would roll more like between the 14 to 18 mark. I'm glad this didn't run up to a 20 or 30 prompt TBR, but I have now seen that it could, so I might have to think about that for future games. But at the moment, I'm quite happy with the 10 books I landed on. That seems reasonable for a month, so I'll probably just stick with the way this worked and try again next month before I make any changes or any decisions. I'm really excited to play this game, maybe not every month, but definitely when I don't have a big readathon in mind. Definitely let me know if there's anything in particular you think I should be reading for that mood read spot. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.